Welcome back to another episode of Minutes Truth. I'm your only host on this show. I hope everybody's having a great Thursday morning. It's been raining. We had some storms last night. It's been raining all morning. 4 to 8 inches of rain. No big deal. Hold on, I need to get rid of these black screens. No big deal, right? Hello, Savvy. How are you doing this fine, you're in Colorado's fine Thursday morning? I'm outstanding. I love life. And I don't let anybody borrow my channel. That's a plus, right? Like my shirt. Thanks, Alex. So, we got a few stories going to go over today. By a few, I mean 14. A lot of them are short ones. Some of them are longer ones. And the longer ones I try to put towards the end. But the ones we're going to play first is stuff that happened within the past, 48 hours, and we should talk about it. We really should. But before we get into that, we should all enjoy some nice, friendly, fucking music. You're in Colorado. Everybody knows, Savvy. That's about all I know, though. Right.
I remember you when you drank my wine. Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends?
See that fucking pink black. But I can do that.
I see you walking down in Chinatown. I call you, but you could not look around. Why can't we be friends? 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 I pay my money to the welfare line. I see you standing in it every time. Why can't we be friends? 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 The color of your skin don't matter.
Yo,
to
Lark,
me.
what's up, brother?
As
Doing
long
good.
as
Doing good. I hope
we
you
can
too, man.
live in harmony.
You're nearing the storm, so I hope you're good.
I kinda like to be the president, so I can show you how your money's spent. Why can't
Was that foreshadowing? 40 years, some shit like that? Interesting. So, those who don't know,
We have
a
changed
certain senator set a record for talking for 25 hours, 24 hours, some shit like that. And what did he talk about that made a change? Nothing. All he did was cry. And I'm glad we had Daily Caller break it down for us.
history. We have bent the arc
Yippee.
of the moral universe, and now is that moral moment again. It's the moral moment again.
You may have heard that Cory Booker broke the record for longest Senate speech with his 25-hour filibuster. Why did he do this? Well, officially, it was because he was fed up with the Orange Man, or something. But I'm going to tell you the real reason he did this. Now, if you're like me, you're wondering, how long can someone go without peeing? 9 to 10 hours. That's a lot less than 25.
Wait.
Cory claims he stopped drinking water 24 hours before this stunt. but I am hereby accusing him of using a catheter. And I wouldn't blame him for doing so, but I just don't see how it's possible.
But like when he's pretending to be all weak and disheveled near the end, like, oh, I can barely do anything. It's because your retarded ass fasted and didn't drink water. You did that to yourself. For nothing but to be made fun of.
The other way. Anyway, let's watch that special moment when he broke the record.
Do you know you have just broken the record? Do you know how proud this caucus is of you? Do you know how proud America is of you?
Aren't you proud? Now, you may roll your eyes at this grandstanding nonsense, but Democrats, who are battered and bruised, are loving this shit. So much so...
Democrats should be totally against the filibuster. They were trying to get rid of it last Congress. Crazy.
Going to start remembering him as a guy who could be the next president.
What Cory Booker did over the last 24 hours may have changed the course of political history. That speech puts Cory Booker as one of the leaders for the Democratic Party. 2028.
Voters who want to support Democrats are hearing from somebody who potentially wants to be in leadership, maybe even another run for president in 2028.
And that is the real reason for this speech. Cory Booker wanted one more try at his failed Spartacus moment.
I will say that I did willingly violate the chair's rule on the committee confidential process.
Oh!
I take full responsibility for violating that, sir.
You violated confidentiality.
I violated this rule knowingly. Now, I appreciate the comments of my colleagues.
But you know what? If you did it in Signal, he might have been okay.
Probably ever have in my life to an I am Spartacus moment.
Did it work this time? It very well might have. But don't fret. If he runs for president, you may not even know what he's saying.
La situación ahora es inaceptable. Este presidente ha atacado, ha demonizado los inmigrantes. Es inaceptable y voy a cambiar este.
There's an idea. Maybe the next 25-hour speech can be in Spanish. As of right now, there is no clear leader in the Democrat Party, and many of the frontrunners have large problems. After this speech, it is a near certainty that Cory Booker will run for president in 2028.
God help us all. We know it's going to be J.D. Vance, unless something really stupid happens in the next 3 years and some change, which, you know, with Israel being in charge, you never know.
The chairman of the whole committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So as you know, I fully believe that was boots on ground, numerous boots on ground, in January 6th, and when it came to arresting all the people they saw in these videos, that was a far reach for the FBI because, well, why? Due process, I guess, or what they say. Protesting, guys. They should have been released the same day, like the ones in Minneapolis, in St. Louis, in Portland, in Seattle, San Francisco. Do I need to keep going?
Mr. Whitson, before you got what Mr. Johnson described as high-paying job as Senior Director of Federal Affairs Foundation for Government Accountability, you worked in the FBI, is that right?
Yes.
10 years in the FBI?
Yes.
And prior to that, you were in the United States Army?
Hell yeah.
300 combat missions in Iraq, is that right?
Yes, sir.
That's
In
cute.
your time at the FBI, you were special agent
I got that in one
the
deployment.
directorate, supervisory special agent in the Directorate of Intelligence. Is that accurate?
Yes, Chairman.
In your testimony, and I just want to get you familiar with this subject matter, in your testimony you said one of the ways we can eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse is including the overspending on confidential human sources. You said
Yes.
that in your testimony, right?
Yes, Chairman.
Are you familiar with the Inspector General's report about the confidential human sources who were there on January 6, 2021 here at the Capitol? Have you read the report?
I haven't read that closely.
Well, let me tell you a few things that they say in there, and I want to ask you a few questions. He said there were 26 confidential human sources there at the Capitol that day. Does that surprise you?
No.
I thought they didn't have any.
He said 17 of those 26 confidential human sources entered restricted space they weren't allowed to go into. Does that surprise you?
No.
Doesn't surprise you. They did things they weren't allowed to do.
Well, I need more details
Okay.
about, so were they doing it on their own? Were they told to do it? Were they, that kind of thing?
We know they
know
were
the answer
told
to
to
those
do it.
questions too.
Yes, sir.
4 of them went inside the Capitol, and 2 of the 4 who went inside the Capitol were specifically asked by the FBI to be there that day for this. Does that surprise
Oh.
you?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
But I need to know more facts. I
And does it surprise you that any of them, none of these individuals, to our knowledge, were charged with anything?
No, I mean, if they were tasked to be there,
Yep.
I would need more information.
Okay,
Right,
in your testimony, you talked about overspending on confidential human sources. Do you believe, is it likely these 26 were being paid by the FBI at the time they were doing this?
I think that's, if they are a confidential human source that's actually on the books, then it's highly likely that they were
Highly
paid.
likely they're being paid.
If they were
even
tasked to do that.
Even if they weren't specifically asked to be there that day?
They were
You
paid.
think there's likely they were paid?
So if they weren't asked to be there, I think usually they're giving us like a lump payment periodically, so it wouldn't be for a specific tasking necessarily. It'd be hard to answer that.
Are you familiar with what was released here earlier this week, the text communications between FBI agents regarding October 14th, 2020 New York Post story on the Hunter Biden laptop? Have you had a chance to review those?
I haven't seen those text messages.
Well, let me just read a couple to you here. It says, nobody on the call is authorized to comment on the New York Post story. Twitter is treating this as disinformation. I just want to read something that took place earlier that day. The way this day worked is the story came out. That day, Elvis Chan, a guy with the FBI, is meeting with the tech company, something he did on a regular basis in the run-up to the 2020 presidential election. At that meeting, someone asked, hey, there's this New York Post story. Is the laptop real? And we know this took place because we deposed Mr. Brady Olson, and he gave us this information. And he said, when that question was asked, the response was, yes, the laptop is real. Then we get these text messages, which we didn't have before, we just got them this week, these text messages which relate what happens after that. So the FBI has confirmed to Twitter at a FITF meeting on October 14th that the laptop is real.
When in history has federal agents ever been good?
These text messages back and forth
When?
where they say
Ruby
no one
Ridge?
is authorized to comment further.
Waco?
Twitter is treating this as disinformation.
BLM?
You find that troubling that the FBI
Not the BLM you guys probably think I'm talking about. The Bureau of Land Management, the Bundy Ranch. Yeah.
knew something was real, confirmed it at a meeting, then changed their story and went to no comment, no further comment, and allowed the tech companies to run with the idea that this story was disinformation.
Yeah, I do think that's problematic, and I do think the relationships that they tried to build with members of the FBI with these other organizations were problematic.
Yeah, and the ranking member said, oh, the Republicans want to say the FBI was political, and what really wasn't the case. If this is not political, I do not know what is, because this was the whole basis for the 51 former intel officials doing their letter. And the FBI knew. Now we have written evidence they knew, coupled with the deposition we took before, where they admitted this. And then later in the day, when they're meeting with other tech companies, they go with no comment. And they even admit here, Twitter is running with the disinformation story. Even before the 51 intel officials come out with their letter, which is baloney, they're running with that. And the FBI was part of fostering and promoting that story.
It's unacceptable.
Totally unacceptable.
And it shows how one bad apple.
You know, kind of curious. I should have paused it when I had the thought. God damn it.
And I don't
All right,
care.
so this next story. Many of you heard that Maryland father and husband that was deported on a admin error. Everybody's all upset. His dad did this. He was a good man. Blah, 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 blah. He's watching MS-13, which came out from his lawyer, not the police department or the law enforcement. But this man was arrested in 2019, charged as being a leader of MS-13, and set for deportation. Deportation, right? Yes. And somehow got a TPS to where he could stay in the United States. And TPS is temporary protective status. So at any point, it can be revoked. Now, with that being said, well, his kid's an American. He should be able to... No. He knew he had jumped the deportation and had a baby, thinking it would save him. The only clerical admin error that they messed up is that when his TPS stated that when deported, he is not to be sent to El Salvador. And I've been saying this since the story came out. And now Crowder, Louder with Crowder, the Canadian American, now he comes out. And I don't sound so crazy.
I'm sorry, I don't care about due process for people who are not legal citizens. I certainly don't care about due process. And we knew that this would happen when we're talking about deportations with Donald Trump. The media was just going to, they were going to comb through all of it and try and find one example of one innocent, one wrongfully charged or deported person. We knew that was going to happen. Here's the good news. They couldn't find one, so they made one up. Let me get to the facts regarding the story that I know you know about. But first, President Trump, 113,000 migrant arrests thus far, over 100,000 deportations, 530,000 ordered to self-deport or face consequences, and border crossings are down 94% year over year, a historic low. So the left says, we got to find someone. We got to find, a gay makeup artist who's deported wrong. Oh, okay. We got to find somebody to prove that this is wrong because there could potentially be someone wrongfully deported. And they just decided to make one up. See this story about the deported innocent dad.
Right now at 4:30, we are covering the fight to bring a Maryland man back home after he was wrongfully deported to a prison overseas. The Trump administration accidentally sends a Maryland dad to prison in El Salvador.
Back here at home, a deportation scandal is unfolding after ICE says it deported a Maryland father of 3 in error.
A Maryland man mistakenly deported to El Salvador.
A man in Maryland deported to a notorious mega prison in El Salvador.
They have now deported a Maryland father on one of those El Salvador flights.
A stunning admission from the Trump administration. It admits in a court filing that a Maryland man was sent to the notorious El Salvadorian mega prison, all because of administrative error.
They are saying the exact truth that I just said. That's all they're telling you, though. They won't tell you anything any further.
Sort of. There was one kind of administrative error. Let me just front load this for you. The man had no business being here. He was supposed to have been deported a long time ago, and he was involved with a gang. Okay? But did you notice how many times they refer to him as a dad, as a father? Because now they're the party of dads. As if they're looking to pull on your heartstrings and imply that someone who has happened to father children can't be taken from his kids for committing crimes. Here's another headline for you. Father of 2 and children's entertainer brutally arrested at his humble home in the suburbs of Chicago. See how silly it is?
It is.
Better painter than Hitler.
He was a father. He was a father. You know what? You know what pisses me off? We'll get into the details, but this guy knew from 2019 on he was going to be deported, period.
Sure did.
He was going to. The only administrative thing that was there was not to El Salvador. That's where they say they screwed up.
Yeah.
He then has a family, knowing that there is a day that will come that he will be removed from this country. You want to be mad at somebody? You want your heartstrings to pull for somebody? Do it for the kids, because that guy, that selfish prick, did this to try to get to stay here and did not care about the consequences to his family.
Yeah.
So when he starts caring about them, I will.
I would add one thing even worse is he actually was hoping for those consequences to be a shield.
Yes.
Sympathy. So that brings us to today's installment of Claim Truth. As always, all references, the links are in the description. Click it right there. I encourage you to do more research. Here's the first claim that you'll hear. He was wrongfully deported. Even Trump admitted it.
A Maryland father with protected status who was wrongfully deported to that mega prison in El Salvador. The Atlantic first reported this story. It's now been confirmed by NBC News. Trump officials admit in a court filing the man's deportation was due to an administrative error.
So he was wrongfully deported. Trump admitted it. Here's the truth. No, he wasn't. He absolutely was supposed to be deported. So October in 2019, Abrego Garcia was ordered to be removed from the United States. I would say that's the first administrative error. I don't understand the ordered to be removed and not kicking his ass out. It's like, all right, okay, you're guilty of murder. I'll get around to it in 6 years. Don't leave town. All right, come on, straighten up. Keep your nose clean until you get sent to prison 6 years from now, all right? All right, come on, honor system, I'm trusting you.
Your lease is up, but go ahead and stay as long as you like.
Yeah, we're going to evict you eventually. That's the problem that we have. That's the red tape that we have to get through. This guy was determined to be a flight risk and a danger to the community. Bond was withheld. And this is the administrative error they're discussing. He was supposed to be spared deportation to El Salvador only, meaning he was supposed to be deported. He's not supposed to be here. And they said, oh, because this guy may face some threats of violence in El Salvador, likely because of his prior gang activity, we'll send you anywhere else. So that's the only error. They want to make it seem like an innocent guy was deported. It's just, we won't send you to El Salvador. Now, that being said, does anyone think if he was ordered to be deported to Nicaragua or Honduras that it would be any
Nothing
better?
would change.
So he wrongfully here, ordered to be deported, not El Salvador. He only ended up on that flight to El Salvador as an alternate. And if you don't believe us, just listen to CNN in a brief moment of clarity, kind of admitting it.
The government, cannot remove him to El Salvador for fear of persecution in that country. He is still removable to another country, but he cannot be sent to El Salvador.
Why?
And if the federal government were to want to terminate that, they would have to go through an additional process in immigration court. There was a flight manifest, and as ICE was working through this flight manifest, they were pulling off names because of various reasons, they say. His name, therefore, was moving its way up on the list until ultimately he was put on this deportation flight to El Salvador.
So is that the quote-unquote clerical error that they claim?
Correct.
That it just moved up a list?
Also, she slept at her boyfriend's house and only had his shirt to wear. So it's just, they go, he was removable. That's kind of the key. Why? Hey, tell me about MS-13. What kind of crimes did they commit? In other words, do you think Americans would be outraged on the technicality of not El Salvador because the remaining criminal gang members with whom he was likely active have an axe to grind with him? If people understood why this man was a risk, why he was ordered to be removed, how outraged do you think Americans would be? The left, meaning the media and Democrats, they don't care about you because they want everyone of this man's ilk to stay here based on a technicality. And so, yep, granted, that was kind of an administrative mistake, though it is fun to think of the moment he was on standby and realized what was happening.
And he got his name called.
Please, come on. Come on. No, come on. Ay, chingada.
Boy, he doesn't want to go hang with his homies.
I'm so glad we're not on YouTube anymore.
Oh, we'd be banned.
And by the way, none of this happens without you. If you like what you see, you want to support it, Rumble Premium. Click that button. You can join. You get an hour.
Oh man, sorry. This one, it's a combination. I guess looks like News Nation articles and Cash Jordan. Cash Jordan's another one of these people that does investigative journalism. And this I did not know about because there was apparently a migrant camp right in Mexico that, well, they just found.
Authorities recently discovered what some are calling a ranch of horrors. Survivors of this alleged cartel extermination camp have shared they were lured to the ranch by being told they could earn themselves a visa.
So authorities in Mexico have discovered a frightening border fortress allegedly used for a lot more than just smuggling people into America. And while the gangs operating this place promised their victims the American dream, this nightmarish facility was the last location anyone would want to find themselves.
Well,
but because of unprecedented military activity along both sides of the border, the criminals running operations like this are on borrowed time.
Just a few meters beyond the entrance of this now cordoned off ranch, the horrors of one of the country's most notorious cartels are being unearthed.
We're on the first border patrol of the day with Mexico's National Guard. They want to show Mexico is stopping the flow of migrants, just as President Trump demanded.
Ahí está, a la derecha, están tapados.
Sadly, these camps do pop up occasionally. The reason that this one is particularly shocking is that over 200 pairs of shoes, IDs, even children's toys were found on this site.
Migrants who spent everything to reach the U.S. are now struggling to afford passage back by boat. While some depend on friends and family to send them money for the trip home, the same cartels that made millions smuggling migrants north are now profiting off their return.
It's on this ranch that Jalisco New Generation cartel recruited and trained dozens of people against their will. It's recently been designated a terrorist organization by U.S. President Donald Trump, one of the most powerful in all of Mexico.
This discovery has shocked the nation, which has struggled for years with mysterious disappearances. More than 124,000 people are missing in Mexico, and most cases are never solved.
So the gang multiple news agencies have connected with this facility are now claiming it isn't theirs. But what nobody's talking about is facilities like this were common before the US military was first sent to the southern border to close it completely. Because while the border was open, gangs and criminals were making $13 billion a year sneaking people and products into America, exploiting would-be illegal immigrants on an industrial scale that was only made possible by irresponsible open borders policies, which, contrary to popular belief, were not making the world a better place at all. And the existence of these gang-operated camps prove that if the opportunity to commit crime is out there somewhere, criminals are gonna take that opportunity and do things with it none of us could ever imagine. Which is exactly what the authorities say was happening at this facility discovered in Mexico, which may have been the last location people were taken before shocking things happened which changed their lives forever. Things which only occurred with the help of America's progressive plans for historic levels of mass migration. Which brings us to the real reason camps like this exist in Mexico. They play a major role in facilitating mass migration, and they allow the people operating them to prey upon those inside any way they choose. And with US troops and special forces all over the southern border, these gangs have a problem because it's a lot harder today to sell people a counterfeit version of the American dream, since sneaking into the country is now virtually impossible. And when all the cartel's clients, including their operatives, get captured and deported immediately, or worse, sent to El Salvador's mega prison, possibly for the rest of their lives, they're now forced to use the idea of illegal immigration to exploit people in other, much more frightening ways.
Survivors of this alleged cartel extermination camp have shared that they were lured to the ranch by being told they could earn themselves a visa.
We found it because we had several anonymous calls, including relatives who accompanied us to where their son could possibly have been.
So two things are happening here. First, these gangs are still telling people they can illegally bring them into America. And second, there's a massive missing persons problem in Mexico, and places like this might help us answer some unanswered questions. Which is why when these criminals get captured, they belong in a place like El Salvador's mega prison. Because these are some of the most dangerous people on the entire planet. And contrary to what immigration advocates might say, these people are making Mexico and America much less safe. And as you're about to see, these criminals are exploiting people on a scale most of us have never imagined.
The horrors of one of the country's most notorious cartels are being unearthed. What they found inside confirmed what authorities feared most.
So at this place, they found hundreds of pairs of shoes and personal belongings, but the people who owned those belongings or those shoes were nowhere to be found. And this place was discovered by a group that looks for folks who've gone missing in Mexico, but that brings up some very big questions, like what exactly was this place being used for? Why did people decide to come here? And why didn't the Mexican government do anything about this place? Here we can see a picture of this facility. You can see up at the top here, there's a wall around it. There's like some sort of guardhouse here. It looks like a prison camp. You can see that these people who are digging out in front of it are a lot shorter than the wall itself. From the ground, you can't even see what's going on inside this place. You'd need to be in the air or have like a drone or something. Apparently in total, over 700 personal items were discovered in this place. But when it was found, it was completely abandoned. There was nobody there. But since this was an obvious large-scale operation, and the gang running it is one of the most notorious in Mexico, whatever was happening here has probably been moved somewhere else. And the one thing most of us here in America don't even think about when we think about immigration or the border is just how little the professional criminals running places like this care about the lives of others.
What are you talking about?
This was in a remote part of Mexico, but not too far away from one of the major cities, Guadalajara. It was raided in last October by Mexican authorities who didn't see anything. So you're either talking about staggering incompetence or high-level government corruption that allowed hundreds of people to be taken to this place
So speculation is that people were being lured here under the promise of a trip to America somehow, and then at that point, some of them were never seen again. And when you realize that Mexico has a huge problem, not just with illegal immigration as people enter America, but also with missing persons, facilities like this site raise a lot of questions. Disappearances are common. Hundreds of thousands of people are gone and nobody has any answers. But what we do know is the open border has been used to exploit people, to get them to come to places like this and put themselves in the clutches of criminals, believing that there was some light at the end of the tunnel here. That's why it's so important that we're shutting down our border. It's going to stop stuff like this from happening. And it looks very unlikely that the Mexican government was ever going to put a stop to anything that was happening here. The Mexican National Guard was tipped off to the situation last September, leading to a raid that resulted in the arrest of 10 people. Yet the officers who raided the site failed to find evidence of what was actually taking place here. And so they walked away. It had to get rediscovered by this humanitarian group. And to me, that makes it look like the Mexican government knew exactly what was going on here. But by not investigating it, they could claim to not know and thus sweep it under the rug like they do with a lot of the problems down there that many people in this country have no idea even take place.
The border crackdown here is bad news for the deadly gangs that run this place, because they make their money off the migrants desperate to cross.
After days of talking with sources, we've got access to the Juarez cartel, one of the 4 criminal organizations fighting to control this city.
Incluso durante el tránsito por territorio mexicano hemos sido víctimas de 2 secuestros. Sí, toda la familia.
They were held captive and extorted for ransom they couldn't pay.
¿Qué era lo que más miedo tenías?
So here you have a family that's been held captive a couple of times, and they're being moved around to these various safe houses and underground facilities that are managed by these gang members, and they're afraid that things are going to happen to them. And the reason people like this are getting kidnapped is because people don't get into America illegally without moving through various parts of Mexico that are controlled by criminals. By having the border open, you force people to try and make that dangerous journey, and they are just subjected to criminal group after criminal group, and there's nothing they can do about it if their ultimate goal is to come to America and enter without permission. And this has created a horrible situation that wouldn't exist if the border were closed and people weren't being lured into captivity by gangs promising them things in order to get them and possibly their family members. And although many of the people coming to places like this think a counterfeit version of the American dream is on the other side, these gang members have a totally different agenda in mind.
It's on this ranch that Jalisco New Generation cartel recruited and trained dozens of people against their will. It's recently been designated a terrorist organization by US President Donald Trump, one of the most powerful in all of Mexico. The cartel is accused of trafficking people across the country and internationally.
So what's essentially happening here is you have people who are being lured to this facility with the idea of a visa. But the cartels and the gangs have no plans for that to happen at all. Instead, they just want to get people inside this place, close the doors, and then conduct criminal operations. Their goal is literally just to make as much money as they can on masses of people who come to them willingly. And as you can see, these cartels have people stashed all over the place in these shady little safe houses where they're hiding folks, moving them around, telling them things to keep them there, possibly extorting them in various ways by asking for ransom payments. But the problem for these criminals is that with the border on lockdown, they can't make money the same way that they used to. They can't sneak people across for a massive payment and then have them work off that payment once they're in America. No, instead, they've got to do something else, which these families realize once they're already in the clutches of these crooks.
They were released, but they are still in shock.
Pero aquí estamos ya después de casi 11 meses, aterrorizados y sin esperanza, que es lo más... y atrapados.
Do you expect things to heat up with Trump?
Yeah, for us, because it's going to be more difficult to get people.
So there you have it. These gangs, they can't work the border like they used to, so they're just finding new ways to make money off the masses of people who are coming to them. And look at this. The human rights groups who found this place are claiming that officers couldn't miss the clues that were actually there, and they're saying that a cover-up ensued. And then the Attorney General of Mexico comes out and says that, oh, the idea of this being a cover-up is just not credible. And it's almost as if their government does not want the world to know what was taking place here.
Es algo que, bueno, a mí me cuesta mucho trabajo creer y aceptar, demasiado fuerte, sí, fue algo que que también se siente tan triste, frustrante y mucho enojo como cuando desaparece Sofía, ¿no? O sea, esto es una fosa. México es una fosa clandestina. Las únicas que no se dan cuenta.
This is what's happening here. This open border situation has created an opportunity for these criminals so powerful that their own government can't even stop them. And all of these people are aware of it. They know that this is actually happening. They know that their government's trying to cover it up. And by America, some Americans saying, hey, we need an open border. This is a great thing. No, it's not. We can see that it's not. This is not a great thing for people in America or people in Mexico. Yet these criminals are making so much money. They've gotten to a level so big and so powerful that their own government won't investigate them. They're just going to keep doing this as long as the opportunity's there. And that's why it's important America send the message to the entire world that the border is closed. Once people get that message, they're not going to go to these cartels and these gangs anymore. They're not going to be lured by the idea that, oh, we can sneak you into America, just come to us. People are going to know that that's not true. Revealing that the most humane thing America can do as far as immigration is concerned is to shut the border. That right there is going to save
China
lives.
literally said, fuck the rest of the world and built a wall. We should do it too.
Has been a flashpoint for mass migrant surges, but also a known corridor used by Mexican cartels. Officials say that this new wall will help Border Patrol agents on the ground, not only stopping illegal crossings, but also slowing down cartel smuggling operations when it comes to humans, which was taken advantage by open gaps along the border after construction was halted under the Biden administration. The Biden administration paused all projects involving border wall construction by executive order. You can see some of the
We were told in America that building this wall was a bad idea, that this was just going to hurt people. But no, closing the border is going to stop people from being exploited on the Mexican side of that border. And then again, after these folks come to America, many of these people end up working in exploitative situations where they have to then pay off massive debts for being brought through everything we've just looked at. And when you see these massive groups of people trekking northward, these are groups that are totally co-opted by these cartels and these gangs. Every single person you see didn't get there for free because they're broke. No, these cartels are extracting every bit of wealth they have from these folks. And by building a wall and shutting down the border, you remove the opportunity to illegally enter America. And once you do that, these cartels and these gangs have absolutely nothing to offer people. And you take away their money, you take away their power, you take away all of the resources they use to totally co-opt the Mexican government, which hurts law-abiding people in Mexico and in America.
The past 4 years saw an exponential growth in the flow of irregular migration through the lawless Darien Gap. Today, those numbers have dwindled to almost nothing. There's a twist to the story, however. Closing the U.S. border made many migrants look for work elsewhere, or even decide to return to their home countries.
So contrary to what we're told here in America, it's actually bad for these countries to have every able-bodied person who's healthy and hardworking to leave. That just is going to make these countries much more poverty-stricken. And by keeping the border open, we're essentially draining these.
So who's going to pick our crops when we send these guys home? Who's picking their crops? Maybe that's why they can't get food. They don't have enough farmers.
Countries of every valuable resource they have. They're just going to fall apart further. More people are just going to be hurt in these places as poverty continues to take over. And if every person with the thousands of dollars and the ability to earn money in America leaves that country, that's just going to hurt the poor who have to stay and are unable to leave, revealing that mass migration just creates more suffering, not just for the people who have to travel through various parts of Central and South America, subjecting themselves to criminals, but also for the people who are left behind and remain in a country that is a shell of its former self. What do you think about that? Is shutting the U.S. border a good thing? Is that going to save lives, or is our country wrong for doing that? Should we leave it open, which would just allow and empower these criminal gangs to do whatever they want, making untold amounts of money? Thank you so much for watching. Let me know. I'll see you in the next video.
We were leading the
man. I am kind of curious as to if the border was closed and not open like Biden had it, would there be as many children sex trafficked? Because that's how they were getting children, to the tunes of hundreds of thousands, maybe million, because it was like 30 million that came across the border. And camps like that, they disappear. Or they come into the U.S. and they get handed off to somebody they don't even fucking know. And then they disappear. Huh. And to continue more on border patrol, this is, I believe, right outside El Paso and maybe Guadalajara as well.
Nation in apprehensions a couple of times. So which means that at some point, this area used to be the highest in traffic for human smuggling and illegal entries into the U.S.
The El Paso sector was one of the many hot spots along the U.S.-Mexico border when the immigration crisis raged.
Which is crazy because there's a military base right there in El Paso and White Sands, New Mexico.
Of the policies pursued by the Biden-Harris administration. Everything from illegal immigrants bum-rushing one of the ports of entry from the Mexican side to attacking U.S. National Guardsmen while storming the border, to the streets lined with processed and released migrants due to lack of space, El Paso has been through the ringer. But all of that has changed since Donald Trump became president once again 3 months ago. Blaze Media was able to go on a ride-along with the United States Border Patrol in the sector to see how drastically things have changed. The last time I was able to work alongside Border Patrol was in October of 2020, when then acting CBP Commissioner Mark Morgan flew me in a Black Hawk to see the new wall system being built in New Mexico's desert.
Looks pretty peaceful.
Border Patrol agent Orlando Mareo Rubio drove past Sunland Park and up Mount Cristo Rey, a popular smuggling corridor, in part because there is currently no wall system. The mountain is in both the United States and Mexico. Even though there are trails to go up Cristo Rey, it is advised to not do so because of the number of illegal immigrants and smugglers who use them to enter the United States. But again, the illegal traffic in the area has plummeted since Trump took steps to close the border. In the time I was there, CBP said they had 0 gotaways. Under the Biden-Harris administration, hundreds of gotaways were logged along the whole border on a daily basis. During the drive, a call came over the radio that there was someone who was trying to sneak in on the other side of the mountain. But within minutes, agents apprehended the person. While the cartels in Mexico have taken a big hit to their wallets with the lower number of immigrants willing to cross illegally, they still mark their territory for U.S. agents to see, like this shrine of Santa Muerte, the patron saint of death that criminals in Mexico often pray to.
They're telling us that they control this area, when the truth is that we are the ones that control the area.
Not only are agents back on the line, able to do their jobs once again, but they are getting reinforced by the Department of Defense.
We're supporting the U.S. Customs and Border Protection efforts as part of Joint Task Force Southern Border.
Active duty soldiers have deployed at various spots along the southern border. 2 Stryker vehicles from the U.S. Army have been deployed in the El Paso sector to help with surveillance, freeing up Border Patrol agents to intercept and make arrests.
So when we're talking about apprehensions for the El Paso sector, fiscal year 24,
it's a big
we
ass
were at 120,000 apprehensions. This same time frame that we already have covered for fiscal year 25. This year, we've only experienced about 36,000 apprehensions, which makes a drop or a decrease in apprehensions of about 70%.
Along the entire southern border, CBP reported only encountering around 7,000 illegal immigrants in the month of March. In that same time last year, they reported encountering almost 140,000 illegal immigrants.
How does it feel now to be able to actually do the job as you initially signed up to do?
Well, we've always done our mission, regardless of administration. We've always done our job with integrity and honor, but it is actually a relief, a breather that would allow us to step back, assess the situation and evolve and, learn from past experience and just have the advantage of time to improve in the areas that might need improvements in order to, protect our nation's borders. Our mission has never changed. Our mission is to safeguard the nation's borders and protect our citizens. So we are working hard to do so, and we are delivering consequences to whoever crosses the country illegally.
As Trump has said, the U.S. didn't need any new laws.
All we really needed
to enforce them
was a new president.
For Blaze Media, I'm Julio Rosa.
I think it was more about enforcement as well. All right, so we're going to go from border to more local. Got 2 stories from me, I guess. Do I have 3? All right, I didn't add Chicago, so we're going to talk about shootings in Philly.
Brand new surveillance video shows the chaotic moments a gunman opens fire at a Philadelphia rec center over the weekend, sending people scattering. 3 teens were shot, the youngest just 14 years old.
And then tonight it happened again. A teenager shot in the chest near another rec center. That teen is now critical. And Shawnette, people are worried and just sick of all of this violence here.
They are, Sheba and Jason. Police gave an update tonight. They say 2 of those teens involved in that Finley Rec Center shooting have been released from the hospital. The other is still there. Add to that, as you mentioned, another rec center shooting today. Residents are definitely frustrated and concerned. Police cameras captured gunfire at Finley Rec Center just after 5 o'clock last Saturday afternoon. The suspect seen running and shooting as people scatter from the playground and basketball courts.
The
Police
carriage.
say the gunman gets away in a
Just left
sedan
the
that
carriage
might be a
there.
Nissan. Investigators say the suspect is seen in this clip of video leaving the rec center 3 minutes before the shooting with a group of juveniles. The victims, all boys, 14, 15, and 16 years old, were taken to the hospital.
They were children in our
Why were they
community
mad?
that are hurt.
The triple shooting is the reason for this emergency meeting at the rec center this evening.
Our motto is catch them before the streets.
Why were they mad?
Nearly 200 people packed the room where residents voiced concerns.
You cannot ignore your grandchildren or your children or your cousins or whatever that's living in your home. You got to check these rights. Don't be afraid to turn them in.
No worries, Patty. No worries. Yeah, I was about 2 hours late this morning.
Police laid out a plan to address the violence and to keep safe the 10 rec centers in the 14th Police District.
1, we're going to have an officer here, evening hours, right? Till this closes, they'll conduct checks. They'll park, get outside their vehicle, engage you. 2, we have bike officers assigned to this area. I have 3 proactive patrol units in this area. And we're not over-policing the community. We're here to help. Right?
Well, you've been under-policing it, so why is the community complaining?
Coming to check not just this rec center, but all 10 rec centers hourly.
Mayor Sherelle Parker defended Finley Rec Center, saying it is rich in amenities for youth.
This is what we want for neighborhoods across the city of Philadelphia. Accountability is a part of the tough conversation that we have to have about what happened.
Commissioner Kevin Bethel responded to questions about the recent shootings at rec centers.
These shootings are not acceptable, and we'll work with the community to address that. And we'll do the same thing with the Lonnie Recreation and that community.
Doesn't sound like
and we'll do that across the city.
And you just heard Commissioner Bethel mention that shooting at the Lonnie Young Rec Center. We were there as police who were also at that meeting tonight got that call. And Susan Slauson, who is the Deputy Commissioner of Parks and Recs, briefly left the stage. So this all happened just as that meeting we were at this evening had started, and not far away. That other rec center about maybe 10 minutes away from where we were. Police say a fight ended with a teenager shot at an East Germantown playground. They say about 40 kids were at the Lonnie Young Rec Center on East Charlton Avenue around 5:45 tonight when gunshots rang out. They say there may have been 2 different shooters firing at each other. And tonight we know an 18-year-old male is in critical condition at the hospital after he was shot in the chest.
Still a little bit of work to do with trying to collect video evidence and possibly be able to add everything together, put everything all together, and hopefully make an arrest on this.
And police stopped a few people, but they say they're not sure if they played any role in the shooting. And Sheba, that was Deputy Commissioner John Stanford that we just heard in that interview. He was actually standing right next to me at that meeting tonight when word spread about that shooting at Lonnie Young, and police began to leave that meeting to respond to the shooting. You could also hear a huge gasp and sigh in the crowd when it was announced later on in the meeting that there was yet another rec center shooting. So again, residents very concerned tonight, packed that meeting, waiting to hear more from police about how rec centers will be kept safe across the city.
Yeah, disheartening and concerning for sure. Shawnette, thank you.
What are they doing to find the shooters? Do they have any leads? Isn't it like the first 48? You motherfuckers are failing. Y'all are failing. And you want to blame it on...
I went on a raid.
Yeah. Trying to figure out. Yeah, we can do this. It's only a 2-minute story. So Alina Habba is now the state's attorney for New Jersey. And, well, apparently she's not playing when it comes to illegals or gang members.
With New Jersey's newest Attorney General, Alina Habba, I had never seen a U.S. attorney go on raids, and especially not raids like that. These were all pretty dangerous, and the people that we're going after were even more dangerous. Gang members and people who were attacking police officers and all sorts of things. I do not criminal residences all the time, but I'm not usually surrounded by guys holding AR-15s while I'm holding my cell phone. You know what I mean? It was
those aren't AR-15s.
a little bit of a change of pace for me for a normal Wednesday morning. So the rundown, the playlist, so to speak, of people they were going after was pretty varied. It was a bunch of people who were shooters, who were shooting people. One of them was a weapons trafficker. And the first person who was actually collared was Zaki Hauser, a young Bloods member who was arrested wearing an Amazon delivery outfit.
Oh.
And I was watching them bring him out of the building, and they actually, as they were coming out with him, and the new U.S. attorney came over and just grabbed him by the arm and they walked him out to the car. And I was just amazed. I was impressed. I'm not easily impressed. I was impressed. After every arrest and before every arrest, they did kind of like a gaggle where they got together, and the point man on whatever criminal they were looking for gave kind of like a update on, this is what we're looking for, this is what he's being charged with, this is what he did allegedly. We all had another little briefing about David Bogar, who was wanted for aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer. So he wasn't somebody who they thought was going to be coming quietly, and he was hiding under the bed. And I guess he thought that they weren't going to look under there. I don't know. But they found him, and they brought him out. And again, Alina Habba just walked over to this, I don't know, he had to be 6'5", 26-year-old. No fear. I wasn't going over and grabbing him by the arm. So kudos to her. When we got to the end and we had all survived and we had a minute, I asked her, why are you doing this? I've never even heard of a U.S. attorney going on raids like that. And this is what she said.
I can't do my job if I don't understand what these guys do every day. So they do all the legwork. They go get the bad guys. They put so much time and energy into doing it. And now it's the U.S. attorney's job to make sure that we get them locked up and that they go to jail for a long time. In the state of New Jersey, I can commit to the fact that while they're all here doing their job, I'm going to go back to the office and make sure my team is doing their job to support them and what they do.
Hey, Alina Habba, what are you going to do for the state of New Jersey when it comes to child sex predators? That's something I would like to know. Right, Laura? Some people just don't understand. Well, I'm going to hide in the bed. And then you think to yourself, self? Why would you hide under the bed? That's a really bad idea. Self? Go hide in the closet. As you get in the closet, you're like, self? I hear them opening doors. So they're going to open the closet. So I'm going to go back under the bed. And hopefully they don't see me. This guy, I'm just going to play because he's a piece of fucking shit who needs to be punched with his teeth, dangling out of his mouth on the ground for one, not knowing what the fuck a military uniform is, lying about his branch, lying about his deployments, and then trying to, act like he's all high and mighty, that he's a combat veteran, when in reality...
Hello, sir. How are you?
Well, what can I do for you, officer?
God bless our veterans.
God bless our veterans.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah, I could. Anything helps, officer. Anything helps.
Let me see if I can. I see how.
Yeah.
Wow, you have been blessed.
Yeah, people are grateful for my service.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, I'm over here on. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, well,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Help out, a couple bucks. Help out with it.
Well, you know what? I have a question. Are you with an organization or something?
No, I'm a U.S. veteran. I served 2 tours in Afghanistan.
So you're not with an organization? Because I thought that you may have been with the...
No, I'm a veteran. I'm a veteran out here just collecting a couple donations. You know, I got on some hard times.
Hard
and I'm
times?
just trying to get back up on my feet, you know, so...
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
anything can help, you know, like, just...
I understand.
Get my life back together.
Hey, you know what? Let me ask you a question, because I served also, but I'm just curious.
Yeah.
What branch were you in?
U.S. Army,
That's
sir.
a Marine Corps
Yeah.
uniform.
Okay.
Yeah, U.S. Army.
You do any tours?
Yeah, 2 tours in Afghanistan. Afghanistan, yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
did you see combat over there? Or
Yeah,
you just...
I actually won this Green Star medal right here. I rescued
No
a
such
little
thing as a
girl in
Green Star.
Afghanistan. Where nearly died. You know,
man.
There's a Purple Heart.
That's something.
Crazy,
That's something.
but, you know, I would
Because, see, I'm a little bit confused about something.
What?
Well, see, you said that you... What's that? I'm sorry, what's this medal for, if I may ask?
This is,
Let me see.
This is the medal I won.
It says GOAT.
Also, in Afghanistan.
They give you
for my outstanding service. They gave me this.
The GOAT medal.
Yeah, it was
No
a
such
special
thing.
medal just awarded just for me for my service in Afghanistan.
Wow.
Yeah.
This, yeah.
As an E2?
I didn't serve in Afghanistan.
Okay. Well, did you
I
serve
did.
in the military or what?
I told you I served in the military. Were you not listening?
Yeah.
Now, see, I'm listening to everything you're saying, but you're not listening to what I'm saying. That is so disrespectful. Don't you think that's disrespectful?
Yeah.
Because I'm listening to you. Why can't you listen to me?
Okay. Well, what do you? Is there some? Am I doing breaking the law? Like, what's the?
You actually are,
Well,
kid.
that's where I'm here. See, someone called the police. Someone called the police and said there's a guy over here who looks suspicious, and I'm trying to find out what's going on.
So it's against the law for veterans to try to earn,
You're not a veteran.
earn some money.
Actually, no, it's not. But here's what the problem is, sir. That uniform you're wearing is not an Army uniform.
Yes. What are you talking about? So you're an expert now? What do you mean this is?
Well, see,
I told you I served in the Army.
Yeah, you served in the Army, but see, I served in the United States Marine Corps.
Okay.
And that jacket and those pants are from the Marine Corps.
Okay, I served in the Marines after I served in the Army.
It looks
No,
similar,
they don't do it that way.
But
I served in the Marines too. You want me to give you my whole life story right
I
now?
do.
But what you can give me is the meaning of those medals, because you're all over the place.
Yeah, this is a Green Star medal. This is
Green
what
Star?
I won for my outstanding service in
Okay, the one he's about to explain is called the National Defense Service Medal. Up until like 2 years ago, everybody who completed basic training and their advanced individual training received a National Defense Service Medal. It's like a participation trophy there, buddy. Has nothing to do with you deploying.
And the ribbon?
This is a medal or a ribbon that I won. Also for my honorable discharge. Yeah, I got an honorable discharge after Afghanistan. Yeah.
Oh, because see, they don't give out ribbons for honorable discharge.
What?
You know what they give you? They give you a DD 214.
Okay, well you just know everything, don't you?
Yeah.
Well,
you just know
mine's in my
everything.
closet.
You know what a DD 214 is, sir?
Yeah, of course I know what a DD 214 is.
What is it?
It means that I had outstanding service.
No.
They gave me when I got discharged.
Everyone gets it, whether they have outstanding or shitty.
Did you serve in Vietnam? Because your hat says U.S. Army Vietnam vet.
Oh, this is one of my buddies' hats. He served in Vietnam.
Oh.
No, yeah, one of your buddies.
I lost mine in Afghanistan. He gave me this hat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I see that you got a United States Navy veteran thing going on.
Yeah.
And the Air Force as well.
Yeah.
So you were in the
You're all
Navy,
brand.
the Air Force.
I had a couple buddies who died. I wear these medals in honor of them.
Oh,
They
you
died
were in
the
honor of
service.
them.
Yes,
Oh,
and I died in
okay.
the service, and you're giving me like all
Wait a minute.
this stuff.
Did you just say you died in service?
No, my buddies died
You
in
fought
service.
in service?
No, my buddies died in service. I knew them, and they were in the U.S. Air Force.
I'm sorry. Did that happen in Afghanistan?
No, I didn't know. I didn't go into combat with them. I didn't go into combat with them. What's with all these questions? If
Because that uniform, that's not a real uniform,
That's crazy.
sir.
I know if my friends died in combat,
this. You know,
then
these people
where?
out here are grateful
Sir,
for my service.
sir, I'm going to
And I
ask
didn't
you to
serve
calm
in the U.S.
down.
military for to be questioned and interrogated by you.
Calm down, sir.
I don't have to listen to this.
Yes, you do have to listen to this.
I'm out of here.
As a matter of fact, turn
I'm
around,
outta
sir.
Here, man. No, I'm out of here. Get off me! Get off me! Get off!
Oh, he's gonna get resisting too. See, no.
I didn't serve in the U.S. military for that.
No, you didn't. I like
You're under
this
arrest,
stuff.
sir. Get off! You have the right to remain silent. If you give up that right to remain silent, anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to you with at cost.
I'm a U.S. veteran. You can't treat me like that.
Sure I can.
Get off!
Come on, let's go.
Veterans get arrested just like anybody else.
Yeah, whatever. Get in.
Base. I like that cop. No nonsense cop. And he was black. So it wasn't a white cop, you know, doing some racist shit. It's a real cop, a real veteran, taking care of a piece of shit who can't get shit straight and obviously couldn't do a simple Google search. I don't want to play this one. Alright, so this one is fucking insane. I think this is released yesterday from EWU. It involves, I guess, a dad who's complaining about not being able to hang out with his kids. So what does he do? He bombs that place.
You know how I get down, bro. Don't play with me, bro.
Multiple explosions in a West Palm Beach neighborhood. But what Florida deputies respond when a 911 call reports multiple explosions in a West Palm Beach neighborhood. But what begins as a routine emergency dispatch quickly takes a turn as investigators uncover a deeper conflict and a neighborhood feud that may have finally reached its breaking point.
Oh, is this going to be on fucking ID?
What the is that?
Fear
The
thy
following
neighbor?
report is based on official
I know you
police
guys know what I'm
records,
talking
and
about.
most of the footage has never been seen before until now. Please note that all persons charged with a crime are presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty in a court of law.
911, where is the location of your emergency?
It's not an emergency.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I just walked out front and my windshield smashed, and all I can see from my camera is what looks like fire and explosion.
Moments later, deputies arrive on scene.
You might be able to see stuff that I can't see. Like I said, I don't have a flashlight. You can smell the gas from right here.
It smells really bad.
And then when you get here, you look up here, see the bag. She hasn't seen it. No, she's talking, she hasn't seen this. All this, there's more over here. There's this piece right here, whatever this is, it looks like a pipe bomb. Then it blows over here on my truck. And then if you look over here, there's a bullet hole.
I don't know if it's a bullet hole.
I noticed this with my cell phone. Also, on this side, you smell the gas?
Yeah.
Yeah. On this side here, I don't know what this is, but I know it wasn't here yesterday, and I don't know what this is, what it came from, but it's like all over my tire of my truck.
Ross guides the officer through the extensive damage and debris left behind by the explosion. But with only flashlights to illuminate the scene, the full extent won't be clear until daylight.
Illuminate.
So they just put it right there and explode
They had to have thrown it, because if they would have put it there, that camera and that camera would have picked them up.
Was this windshield broken before?
No, all this just happened.
No.
I mean, it's all on camera.
And you have video?
You can't see anything on the video.
No.
No, it's all like, she's got it on her thing.
I'm scared. Throw this.
Why are you smoking then,
Approximately 3
stupid?
a.m., Tiffany's porch surveillance captures the first explosion. Before the blast, a faint sound can be heard, something being thrown, striking an object, and then a sudden detonation. However, it isn't until 3:40 a.m. when Tiffany and Ross wake to the sound of 2 more explosions.
Dude, you hear that fucking
Thick smoke
metal?
quickly engulfs the yard, obscuring the camera's view. Moments later, the footage cuts to Ross emerging from the haze, searching for the source of the smoke. As investigators review the footage, the reality of what happened begins to sink in.
What the is that?
What the footage doesn't capture is who's responsible for the explosion. But the victims have their own theories, pointing to an altercation just 2 weeks earlier that may have set everything in motion.
Idea who would be doing this?
The neighbor, maybe. We kind of have a problem with the neighbor right now.
What's the neighbor's name?
Derek. I had to call the cops last week. The kids got into an argument and he was banging on the front door, wouldn't leave the door alone, and then threatened to blow my house up.
As the early morning sun rises, more investigators arrive and begin documenting the scene, revealing the full extent of the damage. Cracks stretch across the SUV's windshield, along with bits and pieces of debris scattered across the front half of the vehicle. Nearby, one of the truck's passenger windows was pierced by a small projectile, shattering it, and a strange brown powder was found covering one of its tires. Detectives also located a clear plastic bottle lodged under the truck. Scattered across the ground and throughout the yard, investigators also found remains of fireworks from the brand World Class Fireworks. Around 6 a.m., investigators attempt to make contact with Derek Sheely at the residence Ross and Tiffany mentioned, but no one answers the door. However, 6 hours later, they're approached by Derek's wife, Jera Sheila Gomez, who has questions of her own.
What's going on?
So, your neighbors had something blow up in their front yard.
Okay, that was the boom that we heard last night.
Yeah. Where is Derek now?
I don't know. He's probably at work somewhere.
Somewhere.
Do you guys want to see if Derek is inside?
Yeah, we will.
Is that the thing? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, you guys can come in and see this.
Okay, tell you what, hold on 1 second for me.
Okay, that's no problem because he doesn't live here.
Yeah, no problem.
We were all up late last night. We all heard the boom. We all came out here to see what was going on. And Derek actually, and my daughter, they came out here to ask everybody if they were okay.
Yeah.
And everybody said they were okay.
Okay. I guess Derek has had some ongoing problems with the folks whose car got blown up this morning.
He had one argument weeks ago.
Okay. Based on that,
Okay.
based on evidence that we found at the scene, there is a search warrant being requested right now to search to make sure that there is no evidence of any explosive devices in there.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Where's his clothes?
With the warrant finally cleared, officers and investigators move in, beginning their search of the house and surrounding property. Canine units are called in to assist, searching for any hidden clues. Inside the house, investigators discover the same brown powder found on Ross's truck tire, resting on the lid of the trash can. When they open it, they find numerous pieces of consumer pyrotechnic packaging. Among the debris, they also find a plastic water bottle wrapper, matching the one found under Ross's truck. The K9 units were alerted to a cabinet in the garage where more fireworks were found, including the same world-class fireworks brand discovered at the scene of the explosion. On December 18, 2024, a warrant for Derek Sheely's arrest was signed, charging him with possession of a destructive device resulting in property damage. Later that evening, Sheely was arrested by the Okeechobee Police Department at approximately 6 p.m. Just 1 day later, on December 19th, investigators made contact with Sheely at the Palm Beach County Jail, where they conducted an interview.
What do you know about my area? So they said something about explosive device and destruction of property. Gotcha. You familiar with the incident that brought all this on? I'm kind of familiar, but I don't understand why I'm here. Gotcha.
What do you know of the incident?
I just know some loud noise went on a house next door to where I was at, and that was the last time I heard about anything. But this whole thing, it blows me because when it comes to that neighborhood, I have everybody in that neighborhood. Can't nobody in that neighborhood say one bad thing about me.
It only takes one bad thing, fucking moron.
As Derek claims to have been a helpful neighbor, the victims offer their own account, detailing a more recent conflict with him that they believe triggered the explosion.
What was the altercation about, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, it was just something with the kids.
He said his kids got into it with our boys.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
They were picking on her son. She got mad, came outside, told their kids, hey, if you don't got nothing nice to say, leave my kids alone, stay the out of our yard, stay the our porch when she didn't cuss, when we're not home.
Okay.
That's what it is. She came back in the house. I'm getting ready to leave. The girl's out there running her mouth, talking about her, but she's not outside. I don't pay no attention. I leave. 30 minutes after I'm gone, he comes over here banging on the door.
So he was threatening at the door to like blow my house up.
Okay.
Investigators questioned Derek about the altercation between the children that led to him visiting the victim's house on July 7th.
And then my wife called me hysterical, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm down the street. So I went, knocked on the door. I was like, hey, come outside and talk to you, Tiffany. She like, no, I ain't coming outside. Get the on my property. I'm like, I'm trying to understand what happened with you and my daughter. Oh, I ain't got this stuff. I'll call the police. I was like, man, listen, all I'm trying to do is figure out what happened. And listen, just when it comes to my kids, you got a problem with my kids as an adult, come to me. Don't step on my young daughter and treat her like she's an older person. And then left it at that.
Derek's recount of events paints a far more civil dispute. This, however, contrasts with what the investigators have already seen firsthand, thanks to Tiffany's surveillance footage.
I'm not opening the door. What happened with my daughter? I have no idea what happened to your daughter. My daughter said you called her a bitch and some. Oh, that's hilarious. Maybe you should look at your cameras and see if there's. I just looked at my cameras. My son and your son playing with water, and he came and my daughter. Okay, Daryl, that has nothing to do with them. A grown woman, I do not. Yeah, a grown woman that just cussed out my child. Man, you know how I get down, bro. Don't play with me about my child. I'll make y'all move. Don't play with me about my child. Who give a fuck whoever the live here. I'll make all you move about my kids. I'll throw this to the next street.
When investigators confront Derek with the footage, his silence speaks volumes.
Well, of course it does. Ah, fuck. Oh, okay. That's a good excuse.
Derek also claims the fireworks they found in the house were leftovers from last year's 4th of July. However, detectives uncovered multiple receipts showing firework purchases made throughout the year. One receipt in particular stands out, showing his wife purchasing fireworks on July 4th, 2024, just 19 days before the explosion on July 23rd. While the fireworks receipts raise questions, investigators confront Derek with the most critical piece of evidence.
Additionally, we have your DNA.
That's it. Done.
On parts of the devices that were used at the house.
That can't be possible.
Why? You wear gloves?
It's the ATF lab. There's no messing this up. Like, they go through processes. They ran it. You're already in our system. We know. Yeah, you're in the system. It's your DNA on it.
Oh, you're in a system.
So I'm telling you this, Derek, because
That can't be possible.
okay, this is a straightforward case.
Yeah.
You made threats. We found the stuff in your house. The same fuse is used, and to top it off, your DNA is on the devices. It's nobody else.
Can't be possible.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right.
This is your chance now to come clean, Derek. I mean,
Come clean about what?
that you were the one that put together these devices.
I can't sit here and tell you a lot.
So you did do it.
Okay, that's
Did you show somebody else how to print account?
Put what together?
These were underneath Red's truck. Okay? Pipe on the booty and down.
Never seen one of them in my life.
Right.
Derek steadfastly denies any involvement in the crime. As the pressure mounts, he ultimately requests a lawyer and decides to end the interrogation. After the interrogation, Derek makes multiple phone calls from jail to his wife on a recorded line. In one call, he expresses an alarming thought, saying, "The only way I can get out of this is if I throw my son under the bus," and that Sheely Jr. would only get a slap on the wrist.
Holy shit.
Investigators approach Gomez.
What kind of fucking dad would do that? I thought he cared about his kids.
In a later interview to confront her about these comments.
You know, I don't know if you've had a chance to talk to Derek much since he's been incarcerated, but, you know, we've, unfortunately now our DNA tests have come back, and so they've indicated that Derek is one of the profiles that we recovered on that device. However, there is a second profile on that device too. So we're trying to narrow down, you know, who else might have handled this thing, you know, who else might have been involved with it. Or my concern is that, you know, Derek might think that it would be easier to have somebody else take the fall for this as opposed to him, particularly things like your son.
No, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah. Has he mentioned that?
Hell yeah, that's some nice thunder.
He said something about that he was questioned about it.
Yeah.
And was it with you?
Mm-hmm.
And that you asked him, was it you? Was it your son?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was the end of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is just not my problem. Not my problem. You know, whoever's DNA is on that, that's on them. I have nothing to do with any of that.
Okay.
After his arrest on December 18th, 2024, Derek Shealy was denied bond and charged with possession of a destructive device resulting in property damage. He's pleaded not guilty, and his next court hearing is scheduled for April 29th, 2025. As the case continues to unfold, the full extent of Shealy's involvement in the explosion remains to be determined.
So that second set of DNA. Missed something?
To see someone occupying the Oval Office who's
Little humor before we get into the actual subject.
and actually answering more questions than the person that allegedly got elected. He said we need to return the power of the purse to Congress. It never left. According to the Constitution, that's where it's at. Now, I know that people are confused right now because for whatever reason, we had a guy that went in, and you talk about people invading our data. Listen, people said that they were upset about TikTok, but I'm upset about the guy that runs Twitter, who for sure is doing nefarious things, because I don't understand, if you are trying to conduct audits and figure out where the waste, fraud, and abuse is, I don't know why you would go to some tech guy. In fact, it was only techies that were sitting there in our...
Well, I could see why they would go through a tech guy, because it's all hidden on the internet. It's all hidden in their devices, and apparently there's a terabyte that they tried to hide from Elon Musk by deleting all of it. But those tech people did it and found it and exposed it.
We didn't have auditors. I would welcome auditors to come in and do forensic audits. In fact, he sat there in the Oval Office yesterday.
And if you're talking about audits, the federal government hadn't passed an audit and since I can remember, right? So why would you have the government investigate the government? That's why you need a third party. You're just mad because Biden didn't think about it and Obama didn't fucking follow through.
That he was lying, and he was using his propaganda machine to do it when he said that we sent millions of dollars to Gaza for condoms. That was a lie.
Actually,
so
it's true.
Let me tell you something.
The gentlelady's time has expired. The gentlelady's
I've seen the contract. It's true.
Fired. Rein in this rogue actor known
the gentlelady's time has expired.
See, I'm Jasmine Crockett. And let me tell you, see, they ain't got what we got, okay? See, we got democracy on our side. See what I'm saying? And this Elon Musk guy, this he won't be worried about TikTok, okay? What he needs to be worried about is like, he needs to be worried about
the nails.
Not what's going on in the Oval Office, okay? He needs to be worried about what's going on in his office.
Yeah, which one is Jasmine Crockett?
See,
I'm confused.
One of the smartest black women that you will ever know, okay? And that is what they are afraid of. They are afraid of us, okay? Okay?
To see someone occupying the Oval Office who's never actually been elected to the
Funny thing about Jasmine Crockett, she went through all private schools, all through her entire school, I guess career. Grew up with two pastors and a business owner father. You know, he made money, kept her good. And she only turned ghetto after she figured it helped her stock rise. So she is very inauthentic, and she just does things because she wants to get her social media name out there.
Oval Office and actually answering more questions than the person that allegedly got elected. He said we need to return the power of the purse to Congress. It never left. According
Yes,
to
it
the
did.
Constitution, that's where it's at. Now
You
I
know where
know
the power of the purse went? Israel.
confused right now because for whatever reason we had a guy that went in, and you talk about people invading our data. Listen, people said that they were upset about TikTok, but I'm upset about the guy that runs Twitter, who for sure is doing nefarious things, because I don't understand.
TikTok is owned by China. So you'd rather have China stealing our kids' information than finding fraud, waste, and abuse that'll implicate you. Elon is coming after all congressmen, Republican and Democrat, and checking out your stock portfolios and how you became rich on $174,000 a year.
If you were trying to
Oh yeah,
figure
you're
out and
way
to figure out
behind,
where the waste, fraud, and
Savvy.
abuse is, I don't know why you would go to some tech guy. In fact, it was only techies that were sitting there at inauguration. We didn't have auditors. I would welcome auditors to come in and do forensic audits. In fact, he sat there in the Oval Office yesterday and he admitted that he was lying, and he was using his propaganda machine to do it when he said that we sent millions of dollars to Gaza for condoms. That was a lie. So let me tell you something.
The gentlelady's time has expired. The gentlelady's time is.
I don't know why it just replayed like that, because I don't have it set on replay. That was stupid. $5 million to condoms in Gaza. Yes. A transgender puppet show in Egypt. Fake ass Sesame Street. Afghanistan. I forgot what they sent money there for. Even though we're still sending Afghanistan like $24 million a year. So now that that stupidity's aside, let's get into a special group of people who, in a way, need to be castrated with a rusty blade, right? That's just pitted all the fuck out of. Yeah, they wanted to make sure that they were having safe sex in Gaza.
The issue of mass immigration into various nations, especially the United States and throughout Europe, have come to the forefront. The rise in criminal activity in many nations due to both legal and illegal immigration is a hot political topic. However, in Great Britain, the rise in crimes against children became alarming for a few reasons, and not just because of the level of violent sexual crimes against children, but also the volume of child rapes which lasted for decades. The outrage was due to the local and even national government, right down to the police constabularies covering up the crimes, and in many cases protecting the pedophiles, while blaming, in some cases, and even arresting the victims and threatening them with charges if they came forward to file charges against their abusers.
Back in 2014, when Operation Linden began, we were told it would be a fully independent investigation bringing answers and accountability. Among the allegations to be looked at, that police officers protected child abusers, that victims were failed, and that evidence was suppressed. It wasn't meant to take this long, but almost 8 years on, we do now have the findings. But for some, there are questions about how much accountability we have.
How did this happen? How long did this crime spree last? How did it go unpunished?
Because
how deep was the cover-up?
They don't want to offend.
Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former history professor, Army and Marine Corps veteran,
unhoused.
and welcome to this episode of Forgotten History.
They didn't want to offend, these immigrants because they're just looking for a better life. So all military-age men can come to Europe and, rape children.
A long-hidden and withheld investigative report has proven that at least 1,400 children in South Yorkshire were victims of a gang rape and long-standing abuse by what are called grooming gangs throughout this part of England, with Rotherham being the epicenter of these criminal activities between 1997 and 2013. Adele Ware, the Home Office researcher looking into the allegations, raised concerns about the abuse with senior police officers in 2002. She was told not to do so again and was subsequently sidelined. She discovered that in some instances, fathers who had tracked down their daughters and tried to remove them from rape houses where they were being abused were themselves arrested by police who protected the rapists. The way it usually worked was that the targeted children were contacted initially by another child who handed the target to an older man. The adult then entered into a relationship with the target child, but often the girl or boy was used for sex by a larger group, in some cases leading to group rape, where men paid to be a part of the party. Another method of kidnapping was the Pakistani-owned taxicab company that would pick up young girls and rather than take them to their destinations, brought them into the human trafficking world. Human trafficking is common, with the child sold to other groups. According to one victim, targets are preferably 12 to 14 years of age. The group loses interest as the child ages and expects the child to supply another, younger children. The great fear is that once used, rather than risk being identified, they kill the young girls. There have been many disappeared young girls in England. The report found that children as young as 11 were repeatedly raped by multiple perpetrators, the majority being Pakistanis, some British-born and others through legal immigration. Some of the child victims had been doused in flammable fuels and threatened with being burned alive, threatened with guns, made to witness brutally violent rapes, and threatened that they would be next if they told anyone. These young girls were often abducted, beaten, intimidated, and sex trafficked to other cities in England for profit in a modern-day slave trade. The report was commissioned by Rotherham Borough Council by an external body and revealed there had been 3 previous official inquiries that were never answered, let alone investigated by the police. Professor Alexis J. of the J Report said that there had been blatant collective failures by the council's leadership, senior managers, and underplayed the scale of the problem in South Yorkshire by the police, who had failed to prioritize the issue. No one knows the true scale of child sexual exploitation in Rotherham over the years. Our conservative estimate is that approximately 1,400 children were sexually exploited over the full inquiry period from 1997 to 2013. It is hard to describe the appalling nature of the abuse that child victims suffered. But how did it get that far? The answer was liberal politics, a local and a national.
This happened years before Biden opened up the border. It was already known that some of this shit was going to happen in the United States because that was a perfect example. Look what's happening in Ireland. They're fucking tired of it. Their new president is probably going to be Conor McGregor, which is crazy to think of.
National administration afraid of being called racist
There
for
it is.
pursuing charges against Muslim men.
Because in England, if you say something that's offensive, you're the one that gets arrested. So I can call a piece of shit a fucking pedophile. I'm the one that's going to be arrested because oh, you made derogatory statements towards the pedophile. I mean, this young man.
That is because the Muslim influence in Britain has grown to the point that many enclaves do not even abide by British law, the police do not get involved, and the people
Just like
are
a
left
city
to
in
their own
Texas.
devices. 5 men from Rotherham were jailed for sexual offenses against girls in 2010, but the report said police regarded many child victims with contempt, and even the few who were convicted in courts showed no remorse. In fact, the Muslim rape gangs committed their crimes, and some even believed that they had a divine right to rape children because they were infidels, and they also felt that they had protection from the liberals in government, which seems to be true. In fact,
Same here.
Police were accused of protecting the pedophiles and targeting the parents and others who tried to intervene. As posted in the Daily Mirror, one father tracked his 14-year-old daughter, who had been kidnapped for months, to a flat where she was being repeatedly raped by a group of Pakistani men, all in their 20s. He broke in to confront the men, but the police arrived after a neighbor called in a disturbance. The father was arrested for breaking and entering and assault, and his daughter was arrested for underage drinking and drug use.
What the fuck?
Her captors had been drugging her to keep her compliant. None of the men in the flat were asked why they were with an underage minor, nor were they detained.
Hey, England, I know you have a thing where people shouldn't say things about your country, but fuck you. Come here and fucking arrest me. Like you were saying. Fuck you, England, you pedophile country piece of shit.
Let alone arrested. The father, named John in the Daily Mirror report, was kept in jail and then rearrested after continuing to file complaints.
What?
Her father, now 59, was a shop worker when his daughter kept going missing from home and recalled making more than 200 phone calls to the authorities pleading for help. As he said, "I was on the phone to a senior police officer. I was asking why no action had been taken despite our calls. We had made that many reports. We had a phone bill for just under £600 for the month. Bear in mind, that was the early 2000s. In speaking in person with a police officer, John reported that the police officer turned around and said, "You know why.
Oh, wow.
If it comes out what the Pakistanis are doing, there will be riots." I said, "That makes no difference. These victims are children being attacked by grown men." He had a right attitude, and I said, "I'm only going to tell you once. It's been going on for at least 30 years, and we know it's Paki shagging." He was talking about children who were being drugged, beaten, and raped. I was furious, to be honest. I blamed the police as equally as the perpetrators because they allowed it to happen. Following the report, which landed like a bomb, District Commander for Rotherham, Chief Superintendent Jason Harwin said, "Firstly, I'd like to start by offering an unreserved apology to the victims of child sexual exploitation who did not receive the level of service they should be able to expect from their local police force. We fully acknowledge our previous failings." Chief Superintendent Harwin also said the force had overhauled the way it dealt with such cases and had successfully prosecuted a number of abusers. But, he admitted, "I accept that our recent successes will not heal the pain of those victims who have been let down." The report also found that several staff described their nervousness about identifying the ethnic origins of perpetrators for fear of being thought as racist. Others remembered clear direction from their managers not to do so.
It's kind of like when you go after a school trans shooter, you're transphobic.
Rotherham Council's chief executive, Martin Kimber, said he accepted the report and the recommendations made and apologized to the victims of abuse. Failures by those charged with protecting children happened despite 3 reports between 2002 and 2006, which both the council and police were well aware of and which could not have been clearer in the description of the situation in Rotherham. Due to pressure, in 2008, South Yorkshire Police set up Operation Central to investigate the allegations. 8 men were arrested and tried at Sheffield Crown Court in October 2010 for sexual offenses against girls aged 12 to 16. 4 of the victims testified. 5 men were convicted, including 2 brothers and a cousin. One of the brothers, Razwan Razak, had a previous conviction for indecently assaulting a young girl in his car and had breached a previous sexual offenses prevention order.
Oh.
His brother, Umar, appealed against his sentence and was released after 9 months. All 5 were placed on the sex offenders registry. Dr. Alexis J. said the first of these reports was effectively suppressed because senior officers did not believe the data. The other 2 were ignored. Senior-level persons in the police and children's social care thought the extent of the problem was being exaggerated. The report and concerned anonymous whistleblowers provided horrific details that were later corroborated. The worst part was the fact that the police knew all along, and some officers even protected the rapists and did nothing. Professor J also said the authorities involved have a great deal to answer for. Speaking after the publication of the report, Victims Commissioner Baroness Newlove said, "I'm appalled by the extent of the horrific abuse endured by these vulnerable victims. It's deeply distressing how the authorities failed to protect these young people and their voices were not heard. Everyone involved needs to take responsibility for the shocking failings that this report has exposed. This must not happen again." Maggie Atkinson, Children's Commissioner for England, said, "The number of identified child victims was largely consistent with the findings of their own national inquiry into child sexual exploitation in gangs and groups external." Dr. J finalized her independent inquiry, known as the J Report, which found multiple failings of the police and local authorities. Girls would be regularly taken in taxis to be abused and were gang raped, forced to watch rape, threatened, and trafficked to other towns. The pregnancies, miscarriages, and terminations which resulted caused further trauma to the victims. Most victims were white British girls, but British Asian girls were also targeted. British Asian girls may have feared social isolation and dishonor if they had reported their experiences, and honor killings among some Islamic families have occurred. Failure to address the abuse was caused by factors such as fear of racism allegations due to the perpetrator's ethnicity, sexist attitudes towards the mostly working-class victims, lack of a child-centered focus, a desire to protect the town's reputation, and lack of training and resources. From January 2011, The Times covered the issue, discovering that the abuse had been known by local authorities for over 10 years. Physical evidence gathered and statements given by victims were lost, and the crime lab was never given anything to test for DNA until
Every single person that was part of that investigation, from start till the end, needs to be investigated.
After the J Report exposed it all. Following these reports, alongside the 2012 trial of the Rochdale child sex abuse ring, the House of Commons Home Affairs Committee conducted hearings and published its recommendation in 6 reports. Rotherham Council's chief executive, its director of children's services, as well as the police and crime commissioner for South Yorkshire Police all resigned. The Independent Police Complaints Commission and the National Crime Agency both opened inquiries. The Rotherham Council was also investigated and found to be not fit for purpose, although no one was held to account.
Of course.
Very few men over the decades were ever arrested or even tried in court for their crimes, but after the report, which provided names of abusers, some of the few that have been arrested and prosecuted were brothers Arshid Banaras and Basharat Hussain and their uncle, Kurban Alihu, were found guilty of sex crimes against children. In the Hussain family, Ali owned the local minicab company, Speedline Taxis. One of the accused women had worked for Speedline as a radio operator. On February 24, 2016, Ali was convicted of conspiracy to rape and sentenced to 10 years. Basharat Bash Hussain was sentenced to 25 years and was later also convicted of indecent assault and given an additional 7-year sentence to run concurrently. Banaras, or Bono Hussain, was jailed for 19 years. The court heard that the police had previously caught Banaras Hussain abusing a victim in a car park next to Rotherham Police Station, but had not taken action.
Holy fuck.
Karen McGregor, who worked as a radio operator at Speedline taxis, was sentenced to 13 years for conspiracy and abetting pedophilia. Shelley Davies was also convicted of false imprisonment and conspiracy to procure prostitutes.
God damn.
Arshid, known as Mad Ash Hussein, reportedly the ringleader, was jailed for 35 years. In late 2018, Arshid Hussein sought visitation rights to see his child who was conceived during a rape. The child's mother, Sammy Woodhouse, who was 14 at the time, started a petition to change the Children's Act of 1989 to deny access rights to rapists. The petition obtained over 200,000 signatures. As a survivor, Sammy Woodhouse exposed the scandal by speaking to the Times newspaper in 2013, saying she was not surprised by the report's findings, adding that it was a kick in the teeth that no professional is ever going to be held to account.
So, and obviously a lot of time has passed, a lot of evidence couldn't be found, but like I say, I was there and I witnessed it. I saw what police officers was doing, and this was police corruption.
2 other men charged with the Hussein family were acquitted, one of 7 charges including 4 rapes, and the second one a charge of indecent assault. After mounting public pressure, more arrests were made. In November 2016, a 4th Hussein brother, Sagir Hussein, was jailed for 19 years for 4 counts of raping a 13-year-old girl and 1 indecent assault charge. The girl's family had reported the rapes at the time to police, their MP, and David Blunkett, the Home Secretary, but to no avail. 2 cousins of the Husseins, Azif Ali and Mohammed Weed, were also convicted of rape and aiding and abetting rape, respectively. 4 other men were jailed for rape or indecent assault. Eventually, a total of 19 men and 2 women were convicted in 2016 and 2017 of sexual offenses in the town dating back to the late 1980s due to the J report and witnesses coming forward. Criminal proceedings are still ongoing and expected to continue until 2027, but that number will probably grow. In separate cases, 8 men went on trial in September 2016 and were convicted on October 17th of that year.
To what?
In January 2017, 6 men, including 3 brothers, went on trial and were convicted of 21 offenses related to assaults on 2 girls.
Even though England sucked at investigating all this shit, they hammer the fuck out of these guys when they get convicted.
Aged 12 and 13 when the abuses began between 1999 and 2001. But the allegation of police corruption and even involvement may have merit. A rape by a man named Basharat Dad was reported to the police in 2001, but he had been released without charge. It was said that he had friends on the police force. One of the girls he raped became pregnant at age 12. She had been raped by 5 men and did
12 years old, guys. Impregnated. But no. If you say anything against them in the UK, you're a fucking racist, and you're gonna get arrested.
Did not know who the father was. DNA tests established that it was one of the other defendants. In May 2017, another man was found guilty of sexual offenses due to an eyewitness and DNA, bringing the total to 26. Due to the embarrassment to the police through public exposure in TV news documentaries and even the loud voices from members of parliament, the police decided to finally do their job. In November 2017, 3 men were convicted for the indecent assault of a girl under the age of 14 between June 1994 and June 1995. Ashgar Boston was convicted in February 2018, followed by Tony Chapman and a 6th man, both in May 2018. Also in 2018, 5 men were charged with a total of 21 offenses, including rape and indecent assault against 2 girls under the age of 16 between 2001 and 2004. Bostan himself was ordered by the High Court to pay £425,000 in damages to his victim. The complainant, known only as Liz, started civil proceedings against her abuser in 2020 after she felt the justice system had failed her. A fourth man, Shahid Hussein, had been charged in 2018 and was awaiting trial, and while out on bail alongside several other men who were all later found not guilty. Hussein, a Pakistani national, was charged for indecent assault against a girl aged 14 back in 2003. Being out on bond, Hussein fled to Bulgaria before the trial. He was later arrested after being found in Bulgaria and extradited back to the UK for that trial in November 2023, and given 8 years and a deportation order upon completion of his sentence.
That's a plus.
The victim's solicitor, Robin Tilbrook, described it as an icebreaker case, which would allow others to follow. But in October 2012, the committee criticized South Yorkshire's Chief Constable, David Crompton, and one of his senior officers, Philip Etheridge. The committee heard evidence that 3 members of a family connected with the abuse of 61 girls had not been charged, and no action was taken when a 22-year-old man was found in a car with a 12-year-old girl with indecent images of her on his phone. Crompton admitted that arresting men based upon their ethnic origin was not a good idea. The police were admitting that they feared a massive public retaliation against Muslims if the word got out. They also feared being labeled as racist, or they were cowards. His officers failed to make clear arrests. The report was unearthing some shattering news for the police and local government. One of the men arrested in October 2018 was taxi driver, Englishman Darren Hyatt, with connections to the groomers, and he was sentenced to 9 years in prison for sexual activity with a 15-year-old girl. But information gained from his interrogation for a reduced sentence led to more arrests, and 7 men were convicted of sexual offenses against 5 girls committed between 19.
A plea deal to where he outs other pedophiles. No, dude, you're going to out these other pedophiles. You're going to out these pedophiles. And then we'll think about a plea deal.
1998 and 2005. 2 of the Pakistanis he mentioned had repeatedly raped young girls in Sherwood Forest between August 2002 and 2003, giving them drugs and alcohol and threatening to abandon one girl if she did not comply. That girl became pregnant and decided to have an abortion. Another girl said that she had been forced to have sex with about 100 men by the time she was 16. In August 2019, 7 men were convicted for the sexual exploitation of 7 teenage girls over a decade previously. 4 were already in prison at the time of sentencing on other charges. Takeaway driver Aflab Hussein was sentenced to 24 years for indecent assault after being jailed for 3 years and 4 months back in April 2016, after he admitted to 2 counts of sexual activity with a child and attempted witness intimidation in another case. Masoed Malik was sentenced to 5 years after being previously sentenced to 15 years in September 2016 for similar offenses. Mohammed Ashan pled guilty to 3 counts of indecent assault and was already serving a 17-year sentence reduced from 19 years for murdering Kimberly Fuller in a Rotherham nightclub in 2005. Ashan had previously been jailed for threatening a former partner with a knife. Wasim Khalik was sentenced to 10 years in prison and then sentenced for a further 45 months after admitting to 3 counts of witness intimidation. He threatened to kill him. He also called the National Crime Agency Control Center from prison to threaten 2 of the investigating officers who he thought were protecting him, at least until the report came out and they arrested him. But why would the police and local government want to cover up their rapes and kidnappings and leave their children as prey to the predators? Well, the problem ran deeper and far longer than most realized. For example, Lord Nazir Ahmed of the Labour Party, a former Rotherham councillor, came to the United Kingdom from Pakistan-administered Kashmir when he was 11 years old. On March 1, 2019, Ahmed was charged with 2 offenses of attempted rape and 1 offense of indecent assault between 1970.
Investigate Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. Investigate them and their family. We already know Ilhan Omar married her boyfriend, husband, brother, whatever.
71 and 1974. The alleged victims were at the time a boy and a girl, both under the age of 13. The incidents reportedly took place between 1971 and 1974 while Ahmed was aged between 14 and 17 years old, living in Rotherham. On January 5, 2022, he was found guilty of attempted rape of a girl and of a serious sexual assault upon a boy, and was sentenced to 5 years and 6 months in prison. But he had friends and relatives in town, and it would be business as usual. In November 2023, Neil Calton was jailed for 10 years for offenses against 4 girls between 2006 and 2012. In December 2023, Ishtiaq Khalid was sentenced to a further 2 years after originally being jailed for 17 years in 2016. In May 2024, Muhammad Imran Ali Akhtar was jailed for a further 12 years after being jailed for 23 years in October 2018. That same month, Neil King was found guilty of 17 sexual offenses against a girl and jailed for 21 years. King's girlfriend was also charged for luring the children in, but she died before her trial. In August 2024, David Sainer, 77 years of age, was jailed for 24 years for sexual offenses against 8 victims after picking them up from outside of schools and care homes in his stretch limousine. In September 2024, Muhammad Amar, Muhammad Siyab, Yasser Ajabi, Mohammed Zamir Sadiq were all found guilty of assaulting 1 girl, while Tahir Yassin and Ramin Bari were convicted of assaulting a second. Abid Sadiq, who abused both girls, had previously been found guilty in 2019. The 2 girls, aged 11 and 15, were in the care system when the abuse started. That same month, Walid Ali was convicted for raping a girl, aged 14, in a dark alleyway around 2003 to 2004 when he was in his 20s.
Only 5 years?
Ali had a previous conviction in 2016 of raping a 13-year-old girl in the same alleyway in 2003.
Only 5
During
years?
a hearing in September 2014 to discuss Rotherham, it held Yorkshire Police completely responsible. When Crompton was asked about an incident in which a 13-year-old girl was found having sex with about a dozen Pakistani men, and the child was arrested for being drunk and disorderly, but no charges were brought against the men, Crompton just said it would be referred to the Independent Police Complaints Commission. Go figure. The only way to address these concerns is with a full, transparent, and urgent investigation, was the report's final call. The report called for new legislation to allow the removal of elected police and crime commissioners following a vote of no confidence. Following the J report, the Labour leader of Rotherham Council
attorneys votes, see if they have the confidence of the public in their best interests, or if the public thinks they're working in their best interest. That would be interesting.
And its chief executive both resigned, as did the council's director of children's services, because they failed, and the police and crime commissioner for South Yorkshire Police in September 2014 were also forced to resign, but no one was prosecuted. When the story broke wide open, British Muslims and members of the British Pakistani community openly condemned both the abuse that had been going on and covered up. In fact, Nazir Afzal, Chief Crown Prosecutor of the Crown Prosecution Service for North West England from 2011 to 2015, made the decision in 2011 to prosecute the Rochdale child sex abuse ring after the CPS had turned the case down. Responding to the J report, he said the abuse had no basis in Islam and said it is not the abuser's race that defines them, it is their attitude to women that defines them.
Yeah,
according to Andrew Norfolk, one Rotherham police officer had been in regular contact with one of the perpetrators. In one incident in March 2000, he and a local taxi driver, who later became a Rotherham councillor, are alleged to have arranged for Rashid Hussain to hand over a girl to the police at a petrol station for sex in exchange for immunity from arrest.
Wow.
Another complaint concerned the same officer, who was never named, who reportedly asked 2 of the child victims out on dates. One victim reported this to police in August 2013, but no action was ever taken and the officer was never punished. Almost 2 decades of police corruption supported by their government exposed and endangered those most precious, their children. Lives were destroyed, some lives were lost, and despite the convictions years later, those responsible for the cover-ups have never been held accountable. But let's place things into perspective. One of my media contacts in London sent the following information, quoting her, "The suggestion that the ethnic background of perpetrators plays an important part in abuse by gangs is hard to support. You sparked my interest with your question, and I've just read a report from 2015 on 1,231 convicted perpetrators of group and gang-based child sexual exploitation. It found that 47% were white, 17% were black, and 14% were Asian. Still, it is inconceivable that the police would refuse to investigate and prosecute these crimes based upon ethnicity, even by their own admission. Such a tragedy." Thank you for watching this episode of Forgotten History. If you liked what you saw, please click like, share, and subscribe.
And it's crazy to think there's cities in this country that are slowly pushing in that direction. They don't want to offend the LGBT communities because, well, some of them are groomers. Some of them are pedophiles. Some of them, you don't want around your kids or any kids, let alone let them have kids. Because these sick fucks don't deserve anything but constant harassment and or torture and or torture with death. I have plenty of ideas on how to torture people, and they all seem pretty legit. I do, however, need an alligator. Does anybody have an alligator? Matter of fact, it doesn't need to be a full-grown alligator. Let me get like a caiman, a baby caiman. That's all I need. All right? That's all I need. And 10 stakes and some rope. That's all I need. Maybe a box cutter, a rusty box cutter. No? All right. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and children of age, I hope you enjoyed the content that I provided for you this afternoon, this morning, wherever the fuck you are. If you're watching this later, maybe. I'm not telling you how to think because, obviously these sick motherfuckers are all over the place. And if you look for them, you can find them. If you don't look for them, you can still find them. It's just what people choose to ignore. And that's the problem. I'm telling you, the guy in that part. Oh yeah, and have a good day.